Okay, good afternoon guys. Welcome to another technical analysis update. Today is the 26th of January 2022 and it's just 1 p.m. here in the UK. So I'm going to start here with the stock heat map, just to see that the great majority of stocks are still very much in the red, but we have started to see the Nasdaq and the S&P open up positive today, so I'll have a look at that in just a minute, but I just wanted to put this in perspective. Another thing I wanted to show you is basically the options market, and the options contract for January has a notional value of $2.1 billion and it's expiring tomorrow. Sorry, not tomorrow, on the 28th. So I think it's on Friday, it's the last Friday of the month. And we've got max pain price at $42,000. Why is this price significant? Well, I will explain why it's significant and how it kind of correlates and has sort of confluence with market structure and the potential price of Bitcoin on the higher time frames, and I'll show you that in a minute. But also I just wanted to point out that historically, at least for the last year since I've been tracking this, the great majority of the time when it comes to the last week of these big monthly expiries, especially when they have a big notional value, such as this one at $2 billion, the max pain price tends to get revisited by the price of Bitcoin. Max pain really just means that most of these options contracts, the puts and the calls, will expire worthless, and it just so happens that the price tends to come to the max pain price. Historically, like I said, over the past 12 months, the price tends to gravitate towards that max pain price as we approach the expiry. So I just wanted to show you that. That's $42,000. So let's start here with the daily chart here on Bitcoin, and this is the Coinbase chart. And today I'm going to start with the Coinbase chart because I just wanted to illustrate one thing. So I've basically got a volume profile here for the last sort of 12 months more or less, so since the 1st of January 2021. And you can see that this one is slightly different from the chart that I will show you in a minute, which is the Bybit chart, which is where I usually do my TA. But I wanted to show you that we've still got a triple distribution here, as you can see, right? And the point of control for this triple distribution on Coinbase, which is mainly spot, on the spot market, has a point of control around about $33,000. Okay, and the price has come and has already tapped that point of control. Okay, so you know it acted as support and we've just bounced from there. Okay, you can also see that the low volume area on this chart is slightly different from the one on Bybit. Okay, and it's starting at around about $40,000, unsurprisingly, big round number. Okay, and the next distribution, I would say, starts about here. Okay, and it goes from roughly around about $45,000 to $51,000. Okay, obviously we do have a low volume node here, which is around about I beg your pardon, around about $53,000. Okay, but so that's obviously, it's going to be resistance, this area here. So it's obviously, it kind of lines up perfectly with the top of this range here. But I just wanted to highlight that this volume distribution is really kind of a little bit weird shaped here, and in relation to this low volume area here, is quite significant. Okay, and that is reflected in market structure. You can see that the price struggled to get above that. Okay, so these low volume nodes here are significant, and of course there's about 3 different lines there. I'm not going to highlight those lines. I just wanted to point your eyes towards this chart on Coinbase, just to see that the value area, sorry, the low volume area is slightly different, and of course it does have it carries weight when we're looking at technical analysis on the higher time frames. And also this point of control carries weight, and as you can see, we've already visited that, tapped and bounced off of there. Okay, so what remains to be seen now, particularly on this chart, is if we were to put a rectangle here on this volume distribution. Okay, so this is basically this balance area here. To the low volume node there, you can see that this has previously acted as support, and we broke down, and it hasn't quite been tested as resistance just yet. Okay, so $41,240, $42,000 is around about the price that I was trying to point out to you, which is exactly the same price as the max pain price. Okay, so this is reflected on the Coinbase chart, and it's just something to keep an eye on. So let's go back to the Bybit chart. This is the chart that I usually use, and you can see that the point of control here is very different. And this is a derivatives chart, obviously, where you're looking at the Bitcoin perpetual contract, the inverse perp, and the inverse perpetual. And ironically, it's basically the great majority of the volume traded here is retail, and obviously it's a derivatives contract. It's not spot driven, so there's slight differences, but you can see it's very much the same. But you can see that the gaps here in the low volume nodes are slightly different. The distribution is a little bit different, and the point of control, which is basically where most volume was traded at, is quite significant here as $57,000, and that's really just a reflection on what the retail mindset is, where most of the volume got traded right at the top, unsurprisingly. So anyway, if we go and look at what, so you can see this triple distribution there. I usually create these volume zones so that you guys can see basically these balance areas, so that we don't have to have the distribution here. But you can see that basically we are still in the middle of this distribution of this volume area here, of this balance area, and we've not tested this resistance. Okay, so we're looking at $40,000. Between $40,000 and the edge of this other distribution is around about $43,000. Okay, so essentially everybody's looking a little bit more bullish now. The markets look like they're in full recovery. Like I said, you can see here the ES mini, so the S&P and the Nasdaq are, even though they had a break in market structure and they've gone to the lows, they are recovering today. There's a nice big green engulfing candle there. The same for the Nasdaq. You can see here as well. There's a little bit of a recovery happening here. I'm not sure how far this has to go, but without a doubt that we'll see some results in a few hours when the Federal Reserve has this important meeting, which I believe it's at 7 p.m. UTC, but I would go and double check this yourself, because I've been reading different numbers. So some people are saying that it's in a couple of hours, other people are saying that it's at 7 p.m. UTC. UK time, so I would go and confirm this yourself. But however, with the technical analysis, all I wanted to say is that we haven't even reached resistance just yet. Okay, so there is a possibility, at least on the higher time frames, there is a chance that we can come and test these highs here. Okay, and then we've got two possibilities, well, maybe even more than two, but the two main possibilities is that we come here, we find that this is resistance, and we roll over and go perhaps even as low as the bottom of the range, or we could even go and test the volume edge of this other distribution and then roll over. Okay, so this is the bearish case scenario. All right, so basically we have a little relief rally, but however we print a lower high, and I mean this is the previous high, okay, on the higher time frames. So as long as we are below this one, there's no break in market structure, and so continuation is basically in order. Okay, so lower highs, lower lows, and we're likely to see lower prices. Okay, however, if we break that market structure, okay, and if we convincingly break above this $44,000, $45,000, okay, that is very significant. Okay, and that's very bullish. And even if we find resistance on this order block here, we could even come and test lows here. We can even come as low as this here again. All right, but ideally what we want to see is this area here acting as support. Okay, so if we do break this market structure here and we print a higher high, okay, ideally we want to see a higher low, so that could go as low as this here, but essentially we've still got a low volume area here in between. And I would like to see, if this is indeed a strong move, I would like to see this area which is an imbalance area and low volume area, if you like, act as support so that we could bounce from there. Okay, so that's the bullish case scenario. If that happens, then that means we've gained acceptance inside of this volume area here, this balance area, and we're very likely to come and test these eventually. Okay, the time scale is difficult to ascertain. I'm not going to be able to tell you if it's going to happen in a day or in a month, but I'm just looking at the macro. Okay, so again, just to be absolutely clear, the key thing is that we break these highs here around about 44,000, 45,000. All right, in order for us to be really, really bullish. Like I said, if we break above that, then when we print the higher low, it has to go, obviously it has to be higher than this previous low at around about $32,000. So it would look something like this, and then perhaps down here, and then ideally we want to see this. Okay, it becomes a little bit more complex if we do break to the highs, come here, print a lower high, because we still have this huge level of resistance, which is a low volume node, and of course we could just turn over and go like that and make this into a bull trap. It is quite possible. Okay, so you have to keep in mind, and I'll have another TA update for you guys on Friday. So, but just to simplify things, essentially what I'm seeing today is a little bit of a rally. It has sort of, in context, it has sort of confluence with the traditional markets here, with the S&P and the Nasdaq. So I do expect us to print a lower high and then just kind of roll over and just see where that takes us. Okay, so I'm looking really at these lows here, $30,000 for targets. Of course, if we do break above it and we print a higher high, then ideally, in a real show of strength for Bitcoin, is potentially use this next level of resistance, the last level of resistance, I beg your pardon, as support now. Okay, which would add confluence to acceptance inside of this balance area. And if that's the case, okay, this is a good entry for a long. There's no point of entering a long down here. I want to see this kind of starting to curl up, just to be on the safe side. And then here I would be entering a long and targeting these highs here. Okay, so now you've got potential downside and potential upside, and you've got both scenarios, and you can make a plan around that. Okay, so that's essentially what I'm seeing. There's on the higher time frames, there's not really much point of speculating of what's going to happen in the meeting. Is it going to be a nothing burger? Is it going to be positive? Is it going to be negative? It really doesn't matter, as long as you've got the levels that you kind of you know where you are in terms of market structure. The chart will tell you where we're going. Okay, so now you've got potential targets here. $41,000, $42,000 is still resistance. If we break above $45,000 or $44,000, then that's a good sign. But what would confirm that strength would be a nice show of support at round about here at $43,000, $44,000. Okay, if we have the support there, then I think that it's pretty much this is a temporary bottom, and we will see off to the races for the foreseeable future. So let's just wait and see what happens today with the meeting. But this is basically the two case scenarios that I'm looking at. Okay, so I've already covered the options contract. I've already covered the stock market and how most of this is recovering already. So let's have a look at Exocharts now, and I'm going to look at market profile just to give you a better picture of what's happening in the day, and a few more reference points. You can see that above us here, between 39,000 and 41,000, we've got a very low volume area here. Okay, so again, this can act as resistance, but more importantly, very close by, we've got a naked point of control at $38,500. Okay, so it could be that we don't even test that $40,000 just yet. We could come all the way up here at 38,500 and just roll over and come to the lower side. Okay, so that is quite possible, and this is important, and this is why I'm showing you here on market profile these levels. Okay, but if we do manage to break above it, and again I'm just painting the up case scenario, if we do manage to break above, tap this naked point of control at 38,500 and snap very quickly straight through this low volume area, we've got a significant naked point of control here at $42,000, which also has confluence with a VWAP that I've anchored here from these highs at around about $51,000. Okay, you can see that there's a few anomalies above here, naked points of control, but there's no point of covering those until we actually break this one here. So $42,000 remains a very decent level of confluence and a level of interest, but for now, on the smaller time frames, and at least for the next few days, and perhaps for the rest of this week, 38,500 is the immediate point of interest. We could absolutely come here, fake to the upside, and then just roll over. So just don't get blindsided with this $42,000 level, okay? It doesn't mean that we're absolutely going there. We could just print a lower high down here. So just bear that in mind, okay? Of course, if the price, this is such a low volume area, if the price does reach here, it will go very quickly and it will be violent, okay? So the perfect storm for that would be a very positive Federal Reserve meeting where it just kind of triggers volatility, and the price could come and wick these levels here and then still roll over. So just bear that in mind, okay? So low volume area means that there's unwilling participants at these levels, and there's very little, there's residual liquidity there, but there's very little willingness of participants to participate at these levels. So the price is likely to rally very quickly through that or get rejected there. So make of that what you will. Targets for the lower side. We've got a naked point of control here at $36,400. Okay, this also happens to be very close to the value area low of the last 2 weeks. Okay, and also we've got a naked point of control here at $35,300. Okay, we've left a very poor low at these levels at 35,800, and we've also left a poor low down here, and I believe that this is yeah, that was merged, okay, but we've left poor lows here at these lows, so I don't think these are just going to be left behind. I think this is an anomaly and it's likely to get revisited, okay? So ultimately I will be looking at the low $30,000 mark, which also has confluence with the low balance area here, okay? So just bear that in mind, all right? So this is the bottom of this consolidation here, $30,000 with maybe even a deviation to the downside before we see any upside. So that's the bearish case scenario. Excuse me, and there's the targets there. Okay, so 35,300. We've got 36,400 or 350, and then we've also got a naked volume point control at 33,000, and the poor lows at around about $32,000, $33,000. In terms of gauging direction here of where we are right now, you can see here I've highlighted this, and this is basically the net longs and the net shorts, and you can see that the longs are getting a little bit extended. Okay, so we are going up, and this is again on Bybit, so you can see that the prices are going up, and just as we approach resistance, you can see that the great majority of retail is still going long. Okay, and you can see these little spikes to the upside, which is basically the net longs being a little bit more aggressive than the shorts, and you can see that here in the shorts in red, which are basically just been closing on this move up, and even though some of them have been opening, they close very quickly because obviously we've been rallying. So here we had a little bit of a drop in the shorts, okay, as the price rallied up, but we can see that they're increasing a little bit already, but nothing of significance. The zero line is still way up here, and we are well below it. However, even though we are below here on the longs because they've been flushed, you can see the clear discrepancy here between the longs and the shorts. Okay, so the longs are getting overextended and the shorts are closing mostly. Okay, so this is significant, and if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what that means. Okay, so who's next to get squeezed, right? So that's all I'll say about that. In terms of CVD, you can see here the cumulative volume delta is just showing that the great majority of the aggressive participants are actually buying and are going to the upside. There's a few little exits here, but the great majority are still buying, and I don't see here any sort of CVD divergences just yet. And you can see here we're printing higher highs and higher lows, and that's exactly what's happening here with the CVD, higher highs and higher lows. So there's no divergence, so nothing really significant on the CVD other than the fact that we are very aggressive to the upside whilst the price is rallying, and we're quickly approaching resistance. So that's on the market profile. I've already given you targets to the upside and targets to the downside. to look at the session profile here, again, you can see the longs here getting overextended and the shorts closing. So I'll close this down here. In terms of the CVD, you can see again that this the price action is showing higher highs after higher lows, and that's exactly what the CVD is doing. There was a little bit of a discrepancy here with a little bit of a, so the price was going up even though the CVD was flat, so this is a bullish divergence, and of course we've rallied to the upside as a result. I'm still looking for bearish CVD divergence to see where we could possibly get a move to the downside, but there's no indication of that just yet. So I'm sure you guys will see that in the group, and we'll post in the group when we spot these divergences. But for now, that's what we see on the session profile here. I think there's going to be a lot of chop and a little bit of a hesitance just going into the time where this meeting is going to happen, and as a result of that, we're not likely to see any major moves until the meeting happens. Okay, so that's basically what we're just kind of waiting and seeing what was going to happen. Another chart of interest that I've got here is basically the daily chart, and you can see this is just the points of control. Okay, so I'm going to take this off a second, and you can see this is a daily chart on in terms of volume profile. Okay, and we've come here all the way to the downside, but we didn't take this naked point of control at 32,360. I think that we revisit that for sure. And then there's a big gap here in naked points of control, big void, if you like, in terms of liquidity, between $32,000 and $26,000. I did already post last week and also included it in the technical analysis update, the moving averages, so I'm not going to cover that this week. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, please look at last week's, on Monday's TA update, and you will see what I'm talking about. But here we are. So we've got we do have that little point of control here, naked point of control around about $38,500, and it looks like we're well on our way to take that. And then it depends on what we're going to do there. You can see here also at $40,000, $42,000 is where we have the other naked point of control, and it has confluence with that anchored VWAP at that I've pulled from 52k. Of course, there are more naked VWAPs, anchored VWAPs that I've pulled from the all-time highs, and also from these highs here around about $57,000, and these have not even been tapped yet. But I'm not going to cover all of this price action up here and these anomalies, because there's just no point to look that far ahead. We just stay objective and stay on point, and we trade level to level. There's no point of having predictions just yet. All in all, this is positive. You can see that the volume here, we've got 4 days of positive volume delta here, which is we haven't seen for quite some time here. I think the last one was I can't remember where the last one is. It was back in October. Back in October is when we saw that for the last time. So it is looking a little bit positive. I think there are kind of people that are interested in DCAing and entering at these levels, but that's basically what I'm seeing right now. And we just trade level to level, so this is why I was highlighting those levels. Okay, so that is it in terms of Bitcoin, and we'll move on to Ethereum USD. And again, if you guys have any questions, please ask the questions in the chat here on YouTube, and I'll try and get to those as quickly as I can, and in between coins. But for now, I'll just crack on here with the Ethereum USDT chart, or Ethereum USD chart. This is actually, again, on Bybit, the perpetual contract inverse swap. Okay, so with the dump, we kind of entered this point of control. Let me just get the volume profile here so that you guys can see. So you can see that these volume zones that I've highlighted here are essentially just where these big volume distributions are. And you can see that Ethereum actually fared a little bit better. We didn't come all the way down to the point of control, strangely enough. But I wouldn't put it past this is quite possible that we could rally all the way up to here around about $2,800, and then just roll over and do indeed come and visit these levels down here. Okay, but for now we're not seeing that. We're just seeing the market take a little bit of a reversal. But this area here is still resistance, so somewhere between $2,800 and $3,000 is resistance, and will continue to do so. until we break above it. Okay, so if we break above that, then I'm looking at this volume distribution as an area of interest, and the market structure really to be broken to stop printing the higher highs and the higher lows is way up here at $3,400. Okay, so actually to see a bullish market structure change on Ethereum, we would have to break above this here, go all the way to $3,500, and then confirm this area here of the low volume area as support. Is it possible that it can do that? Yeah, well, that's the bullish case scenario. It is quite possible. It depends really what comes with Bitcoin. Again, I want to reiterate this. It doesn't matter what I chart here on Ethereum and on all these other altcoins. Everything follows what Bitcoin is doing. Okay, so everything kind of hinges on that. And as we've seen, the correlation between Bitcoin and altcoins is that when Bitcoin goes down, altcoins go down by quite a lot. And when Bitcoin goes up, then most altcoins also rally. So Bitcoin is the barometer, if you like, of the whole crypto market. And we've also proven and have seen and observed that in the last sort of few months, perhaps even sort of year or so, there's direct correlation with the Nasdaq and the S&P and the traditional finance markets for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is really just following what those markets are doing. So basically, the traditional markets are now a barometer for what Bitcoin is doing, and obviously by proxy, the rest of crypto. So I hope that makes sense. So traditional finance being the ultimate barometer of what we are, where we are going in terms of price. So it's worth keeping an eye on these meetings, etc. But anyway, without trying to digress too much, this is the bullish case scenario for Ethereum, and of course, it's only possible if we do break market structure. However, a glimmer of hope would be do something like this. Would be coming in, breaking above this balance area here, and then just testing that and confirming this as support. Okay, if we can confirm this area between $2,800 and $3,000 as support, then there is a strong chance that we come here and we break this market structure here at around about $3,400. If that happens, then that's very bullish for Ethereum, and of course that would be reflected along the rest of the altcoins. Okay, so we'll have to wait and see if this happens. I don't think, you know, at the moment I just have to go with what the chart says, and the chart's saying lower highs, lower lows. So that's the bullish case scenario. The bearish case scenario is, like I said at the very beginning, we come up here, we test this low volume node, perhaps even the edge of this balance here of the high volume cluster, and then we kind of roll over. Okay, and if we start rolling over, and that means we've been rejected from this balance area here, and we found acceptance, we're still basically trapped inside of this balance area, and we're very likely to come and test both sides of that balance. Okay, and as a result, I think around about $1,600, $1,800 is the price that you should be looking for. Okay, $1,800 is the point of control, so that is significant. And even if we kind of like come all the way down here and start printing a bottom, I wouldn't discount the idea that we could perhaps wick to the downside and then trap the shorts. You know, and this would be like the perfect trap in liquidity, because there's an order block there, and obviously if we print a bottom here, then people will start putting all their stops in this area here. This is getting a little bit confusing, but I hope that you guys understand what I'm trying to say here. So if we come all the way down here and start printing a bottom at this point of control, it doesn't mean we're going to go straight up. Okay, it can, but it also could trap a few, break to the downside, which means it traps all the bears, create a little bear trap, and then squeeze into the upside. This would also grab all of the liquidity below this bottom, which is basically where most of the retail will put their stops. Okay, so this would be a nice liquidity grab, and then boom, rally to the top and trap all of the bears. Okay, so just bear that in mind. I don't know if this is going to happen before Friday, but we're expecting volatility today, even though it's quite possible that nothing's going to happen. You know, that nothing might happen. But if it does, now at least you've got some levels of interest here. Okay, so that's the bearish case scenario. We come all the way up here, and then we turn to the downside. Okay, there's also a few low volume areas here that you should take in consideration, namely this one here around about $2,000. You can see that in context within this balance area is a low volume node. Okay, so it's a low volume node within a bigger sort of balance area, and $2,000 is a big round number. Okay, so if you are in a short, do take profit, especially around this level here, around about $2,000. Okay, so I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I'm just telling you what I would do. This is just for education and entertainment purposes only. So just please bear that in mind. And if you're watching this video as a recording and not live, please go back, watch the intro, and pause the video to read my disclaimer. It's an important legal information there, so just pause the video there and read the disclaimer, please. Anyway, let's have a look at Exocharts here for Ethereum and just see what we can see here. So what I've done here is put a blue rectangle, which is a little bit, it's not very visible, so let me just make that a little bit more visible. There we are. Okay, so this blue rectangle is essentially the composite of these 4 volume profiles, okay, of these 4 TPOs, or market profiles, okay. So essentially what happens is if I merge these 4 profiles, we get a value area, okay. So in fact the value area has changed slightly, so let me just adjust that, unlock it, and I'll put it up to here, and you can see what I've done there now. Okay, so this is basically the composite of 4 market profiles for the last 4 days, basically, of the price action of the last 4 days. And you can see that we broke above that, and we are testing. We've left some single prints above, and we are testing the higher levels. Okay, so we've rallied away from this composite value area, so that's significant. But I will highlight these levels here as potential targets if we are to move to the downside. Okay, so I'm going to start with the value area high here. So I'm just going to leave that as blue for now. I don't know why that's not done it, but let me just check here. No, that's not happening. Okay, doesn't matter. So I do apologize for that. I think it's perhaps because there's 2 lines there. There we go. Remove, and I'm going to put that there because that is significant. Okay, so $2,500 is the value area high of this composite value area. Okay, 2,369 is the composite value area low. Okay, these are significant levels, and if we are to come back to the downside, these are levels that I expect to be hit. Additionally, when I use merge these, you can see that there's a point of control here around about $2,430, and then also we've got a volume point of control down here at around about $2,250. Okay, so that's essentially this one here. Okay, so it's basically a volume, a naked point of control, a point of control that has not been tapped yet. Okay, so these are the levels to the downside that I'm looking for if we do indeed get to resistance and then break to the downside. So essentially these targets could also act as support if we go all the way down to those low levels that I was telling you about just a minute ago. Potential levels to the upside, of course, we've got strong resistance here at around about $2,650, between $2,650 and $2,700. It also has confluence with the value area low of this profile here. We've got a naked point of control at 2,850 and another naked point of control here at 3,125. So if Bitcoin was indeed to get past the 38,500 NPOC naked point of control and go all the way to 42,000, I wouldn't be surprised to see these 2 targets get tapped. Okay, so just bear in mind also that we've got $3,000 is a big round number. We've got an initial balance that is untapped here, a naked initial balance that could also act as resistance. But these are the targets to the upside, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go in the group and you will see that there are a few charts there where I've highlighted and put some subtitles so that you guys can see exactly what I'm looking for. But essentially these are the targets for the upside that I'm seeing on a smaller time frames, if you like. Okay, so in terms of net longs and net shorts, let's have a quick look here. Yeah, the shorts are closing significantly, and the longs had closed as well on this dump. But now as we get closer and we look at the sort of like the most recent price action, as you can see, the shorts are very much closing, just same as Bitcoin, and the longs are very much getting a little bit excited. And they're, you know, again, we're heading towards resistance, and it's unsurprising to see this on Bybit, where everybody starts going long at the top. Okay, so this is seen time and time again. In terms of delta, nothing significant really. In fact, it's looking a little bit healthier. The delta is pretty much flat here, although you can see that there's a little bit of an uptick here since January the 25th, so since yesterday. But you can see here there's aggressive buying going on, but we're very much flat. Let me put this in context. Expand the clusters. Okay, so this high here and this high here pretty much equal highs here on the CVD, and yet we've rallied quite a little bit above. So it's looking a little bit healthier in terms of CVD, to be perfectly honest, purely for the fact that we've got the price is leading the CVD. Okay, so actually there's not that much in terms of aggressive buying on Ethereum, and yet the price is rallying very well. So make of that what you will. I think that's important information. So I think Ethereum is looking a little bit healthier than Bitcoin, but again, it really doesn't matter, because if Bitcoin decides to have a little dump, then it'll drag Ethereum down with it. So again, do with that information what you will, but that's basically what I'm seeing here on Ethereum. So that was it for Exocharts. So, and for that's Ethereum USD. Let's have a look at Ethereum BTC. I haven't looked at this chart for quite some time. Let's delete these scribbles that I left from Monday. You can see here that we've tapped basically the low volume node here. I had put here a range low and a range high for this volume distribution, and that's exactly where the price went to. As soon as we entered it, I said that that's the target, and that's exactly where we've gone to. We've gone to the lower side of balance, and it looks like we're on our way up here. Of course, we've got some levels of resistance that are highlighted here, namely the 71,000 sats and 73,000 sats, which is basically 71,000 sats is where this point of control is. I'm going to make this one a little bit thicker. Where this point of control here is, but you can see here that Ethereum is, even though it's pumping, is going up to the upside a little bit more than Bitcoin. It hasn't printed a higher high and consequently a higher low either. So it's very difficult to gauge if this is going to be outperforming Bitcoin in the near future or not. But this could potentially be the beginning of the reversal. Okay. Of course, we can also just do this, come all the way up here, and then it gets rolled over and comes to these lower levels here of support. Okay, so we've got levels of support at around about 56,000 sats, between 56 and 60,000 sats. I've identified 3 levels of support there, and we've got levels of resistance starting from 71,000 sats all the way to 80,000 sats. Okay, so I hope that this helps you, and I hope it helps you guys gauge a little bit of direction. So that's it in terms of Ethereum BTC. So I'm going to start with the altcoins now, especially for you guys that are involved in decentralized finance and sort of like trading on FODL. And I hope this is valuable information for you, but I want to reiterate that again, none of these coins will show any strength if Bitcoin is dumping. The only time is that you see the outliers is when Bitcoin's pumping, and some of these coins go absolutely berserk. So again, take that in consideration, because Bitcoin really is the barometer. Okay, so again, I will put some timestamps as well at the end of this video so that you guys can skip to the relevant coins that you're interested in. But I will start with FODL, and let's have a look at FODL versus USDT. And this is on OkEx, the Asian exchange. And again, we got these big spikes, and like I said, and I say this every single week, I don't like charting on here just because this is quite deceiving. What could look like accumulation are actually just fat fingers or pump and dump groups. So I'm not going to bother with this one. Let's have a look at FODL versus USDC. This is on sushiswap. And in terms of the log chart here, you can see that there's significant selling here in terms of volume. You can see here that there had been previous accumulation at these lows, but there was significant selling, and we kind of lost the point of control there. But we haven't even tapped this level of support here, which is basically a big discrepancy in volume at these levels. So I expect this level to act as support if we do come down here. But there's a nice big wick here on the daily, and this wick is indicative that obviously people are interested in buying at those levels. I can have a look at the 4-hour chart, and you can see here on the 4-hour chart is a little bit more promising. Obviously when Bitcoin had a dump, everybody panic sold here, but you can see that there are accumulation at these levels, especially with these green candles here. Okay, so we are starting to see signs of recovery, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens in the normal markets, in the bigger markets, to see if this has actually a chance of breaking these levels of resistance. Okay, so I've put these levels here above us as potential resistance. In fact, I'm not sure why they're green, they should be red. We just change that a little bit. So I've got some lines here of resistance at FODL USD, so basically 20 cents. The point of control should also be a level of resistance at round about 19 cents. And then we've got 20 cents, 22 cents, 24, and basically 26. So you know, 2 cents at a time. But it's very interesting here that there's a little bit of a discrepancy in volume there, which basically means that somebody's buying the dip on these coins, which is again very promising. So that's FODL versus USD. You've got some levels of support down here, admittedly not much, but you've also got significant levels of resistance above because of previous price action. So you can see that these are larger liquid candles. So if we do see a reversal in the markets, I wouldn't be surprised to see this rally right up to these levels here above 29, 30 cents, something like that, very, very quickly, because again, low volume, highly inefficient moves means that the price will travel very quickly through that when we do break that resistance. So just bear that in mind. Let's move on to AAVE versus USD. And AAVE versus USD, I had put a little scribble there. We are testing this level of resistance here at $160 right now. We did bounce on this previous level of support. It's still considered a support as $130. We've got another one here at $99 or $100, and essentially a low volume node at this area here at $94. We haven't quite touched that yet, but if we do see the markets roll over on Bitcoin and Ethereum, then I expect the price here on AAVE versus USD to lose a little bit and come and test these low levels down here. Okay, levels of resistance for you, I've got again $160, which is basically where we're at right now, and we've also got this $190 level, and then $200 obviously low volume area here. This is why I've put the rectangle, and that's between $220 to $260, and then we've got more significant levels of resistance around about $300, which is where the point of control is. Let's wait and see if we can get as high as that. That really, I only see that happening if indeed we do see a very quick and very significant change in market structure on Bitcoin. But for now, all I can do is give you the immediate levels of resistance and immediate levels of support. Okay, so that's AAVE versus USD, and I don't see any signs of reversal just yet. We're still printing lower highs and lower lows. Okay, so I'm going to leave that scribble there because it's potentially something that is going to happen. So I'm going to leave that as it is. So we'll look at AAVE versus BTC. We were hovering at resistance here, and like I said on Monday, we came and tested this level here. Down here was basically the high volume cluster of this volume profile, and you can see that the price has been respecting that. So we have printed a lower high, considering this is if you take in consideration this week, of course, but if you ignore the wick in terms of market structure, this was the high, and we've just printed a higher high. Okay, of course that we got rejected from this balance area here, this next level of balance, and we got rejected there, and of course even though we were hovering at resistance, we broke to the downside. However, we also got rejected of this high volume cluster within the bigger one in terms of context. So we're finding support there. It is possible that we just move up from here, and like I said on Monday, if we do, then this would still be resistance at round about 5,700 sats. Okay, so with continuation in the market and the best of wills, if the price is going down, then I wouldn't be surprised to see this just find resistance here and then start either rotating sideways or roll over and go much lower. Okay, if it does rotate sideways, or if indeed starts kind of like hovering here at resistance, then it is quite possible that we could have another stab at this balance area here, and then we'll have to wait and see if we can find support there and move to the upside. But for now, as we are all very much bearish, this is what I expect it to do. Even if we do see a rally here, I do expect the price to find resistance at these levels. Okay, so that's 4,900 sats, so let's say 5,000 sats, and then 6,000 sats as resistance. Okay, levels of support: 4,000 sats, 3,200, and essentially 2,000 sats. So, okay, so that's about 1,900 sats. So that's AAVE versus BTC. AAVE versus Ethereum. We're very much still on that sort of in that sort of a resistance area. We were hovering at resistance, but we kind of broke below it. But we are finding a little bit of support here. But it does look like it's a broken market structure, so I wouldn't be surprised to do this, something like this, come a little bit higher, and then just kind of roll over and retrace basically the whole of this liquid move to the upside. Okay, so levels of support down here. You can pause the video if you're watching this on replay, and then take these levels as key levels that you should be looking for. Okay, so let's move on to compound versus USD. Compound versus USD, we have a very distinct high volume profile here, very distinct balance area. Okay, as I'd said before, we did lose this point of control here, and basically it was game over. We found a little bit of support in this point of control. We came back and tested that, but then of course this is a low volume area, so we rolled over because that's confirmed as resistance, means acceptance within this balance area, and now we're testing both sides of that. Even though we are rallying here around about $133, we have found support around about 129. Okay, we wicked as low as 108, but essentially we which is basically this little low volume node here. I did expect this one here to be a little bit more significant, but nevertheless we are above it. And so we've got support at $130. We've also got a level of support here at $101 or $100 to be a little bit more precise, because it's a big round number and it has confluence with that. But essentially we haven't even tested these levels down here. So we could actually, again, if the market is bearish, we could essentially just come all the way up here, retrace this large liquid move, and then roll all the way down and come and test these levels down here at $100. Okay, we'll have to wait and see. But even if we see a nice big rally here on compound, I do expect this level here, $197, $200. It's a big round number. It's also where the point of control is. I expect that to act as significant resistance. So I'm talking about this level here. Okay, so just bear that in mind, even if we do see that rallying. Okay, we we could seeing a little glimmer of hope here, but nothing significant that on the daily that we should be extremely excited about. But again, these moves, this is how they start. Okay, so we could actually see a big rally here. I'm not seeing any evidence of that until we break market structure. So we'll just have to wait and see and go with what the chart's telling us. Compound versus BTC, we are pretty much at all-time lows. Okay, so again, at all-time lows, there's no point of reference to be able to give you a price or a target. Okay, so when we're in price discovery like this, then I do expect the price to just stick to big round numbers. Okay, there's just this essentially because most market participants think like this. Okay, we see things linearly, so we look at big round numbers to enter positions and to exit positions. So I'd be looking for those. So obviously we're looking at 300 sats and then 250 sats, 200 sats, etc. Levels of resistance are very clear here, 374 sats, which is basically where this previous support was. And then we've got a few more here, 428, 480, 530 sats, and so on. Again, you can pause this video if you're watching it, like the later recording, and you can take these levels if you like. Again, they're just based on volume and market participation. So that's compound versus BTC. Compound versus ETH, we tested the very low of that market structure, the all-time lows essentially. And this acted as support. We rallied to the upside. I did put a little rectangle box there as this order block. We're basically outlining this little order block here, and that's exactly where the price went to. The price went there. Okay, so you can see where the line is. In fact, I'm going to delete that so you guys can see this a little bit clearer. Okay, so there's previous support here. That's essentially where this order block came and printed a little green candle. I can move that over to there. I'm just going to put the magnet on so it snaps straight onto that, right? And that's exactly where the price tapped. Okay, so the price tapped that level there and just kind of reversed. Okay, so again, on compound versus Ethereum, we are seeing a little bit of resistance, nothing new. We're still printing lower highs and lower lows. This is a higher low here. compared to this one, but I'm not seeing any signs of strength yet. Okay, a good sign of strength would be to break above this market structure at around about 660 sats, and if we break above that and print a higher high, then I'll be a little bit more convinced. But for now, we're not seeing that, so I'm betting on weakness of compound versus the majors. Okay, so make of that what you will. Although again, like I said, this could be the beginning of a recovery, as we are seeing a higher low compared to that one there. Okay, so that's compound. Let's have a look at basic attention token versus USD. And I'm going to adjust this volume profile here. And I'm going to clean up the chart here a little bit. In fact, I'm going to leave those scribbles there so you can see exactly what's happening. That green line that I put there on Monday, or perhaps even last week, as early as last week, I did say there was going to be 65 cents was going to be a level of support. That's exactly where we bounced. It's basically essentially another low volume node in context. Okay, and I've put this little scribble here on Monday that the likely scenario is that we start rotating between these two levels and perhaps even go to the downside and start rotating at this range. So essentially these are all ranges. Okay, so this is one range here, and this down here is another range, and essentially if we break above this level here, 95 cents, then again the next range would be this one here, which is basically where we had been trading the whole of last month and the end of last year. So essentially what we're looking at is at these ranges here. So we are testing that resistance right now as we speak, and that's around about 83 cents. And I'm going to delete that scribble. As you can see, the green candle, nice big green candle into this level. So essentially what we want to see here for this to be bullish is that we break above this low volume area here. Just bear with me a second. So low volume area here, this is why I've highlighted it with a rectangle, okay, with a shaded, red shaded area in between two levels of resistance. So essentially what we want to do is break straight above that with convincing volume, and then come here and test this as support. Okay, if we start seeing this acted as support and we're starting to curl up to the upside, then it's very likely that we just get acceptance inside of this balance area, and so we start rotating up here. Okay, similarly, if we get all the way up here now, and even if we test this level up above and we start curling over and find acceptance inside of this balance area, meaning that we cannot get above that, and that's a resistance here around about 83 to 87 cents, then of course the level that I'd be looking for is essentially this level of support first, and then this level here. Okay, and essentially that's what that scribble was basically saying that we could be rotating here or ranging, or we could be ranging here, or a combination of both. Okay, so just bear that in mind. As you can see here, that's exactly that's the wider range, if you like. We were trading between those two, that's why there's a double distribution here, but we could be trading just above, or we could be trading just below. As you can see here, support, resistance, support, broke above that, turned into support, broke below it, broke above it, acted as support, and then now we're here, and so this level should act as support. If it fails, then I expect this level here to act as support as well, which is also, there's a rectangle here shaded in green, which is essentially a low volume area and potentially a good buy area, or a good area to buy, should I say. So yeah, so that's essentially what I'm seeing here on BAT versus USD. BAT versus BTC, no immediate signs of recovery. I mean, we did bounce on this level of support, which is a good positive sign, but we did break above this this, you can see here, higher highs, higher lows. Okay, so this was very promising. We broke below, we broke that market structure, and now we're likely to come and test this here. Okay, so if we do come and test this here, it's very likely that we find a little bit of resistance and we roll over and fall back within this range. Okay, and again, we'd either trade inside this range here, or we trade inside of this range here, or a combination of both. I'll have more for you on this on Friday and see where we are, but that's essentially what we're seeing here. The bullish case scenario for this is obviously break market structure above 2,600 sats, and if we break above that, then essentially we want to see if we can find acceptance of previous resistance as support and do an SR flip in order to either rotate within this new balance area or go further up. So that's basically what we want to see on BAT versus BTC. Okay, Of course, targets to the downside, we've already got these levels of support. Targets of resistance, you've got those levels in red for resistance. BAT versus ETH, I think it's going to be a little bit of the same thing. Again, we broke market structure. We did come and test the highs, and we've already been rejected there. So it remains to be seen if we print a lower low or if we stay above this level here. But if we stay above this level, it looks a little bit more promising. Of course, if we print a lower low, then it's very likely the continuation is in order and we start doing something like this. Okay, which is also possible. Okay, so yeah, well, again, we could range here, come all the way down here, and we can range here depending on what Bitcoin's doing, or we could come all the way down here and start rallying up depending on what it does. Okay, so essentially what I'm doing is I'm just giving you these levels of support so that you know where these ranges are. Okay, so essentially this is one range here, and this here should be another range. Okay, so again, at the lows you buy, at the highs you sell, and even if we fall below, it's the same thing. The previous level of support is now resistance, so at these highs you sell, at these levels you buy. It's as simple as that. Okay, I know it sounds a little bit simplified, and it sounds like I'm making fun of it, but I'm really not. It's actually, when you're trying to trade, it's actually really difficult to stay in line and to not let the emotions ride. So let's have a look at Link versus USD. And essentially we have bounced at this level here. This was a previous level of I've put it as red, so obviously we were below here on Monday. So this is a level of support now that acted as support. We broke above it. We do have a low volume node on the edge of this high volume cluster here, just above us here, around about $17. You know, this will be a tricky area to break above. If we do break above, obviously that's very, very bullish. We'd like to see something like this, and then we've got a better chance of breaking market structure and to go up to these highs. Okay, so but again, do not get blinded. We've got a low volume area here, which is highlighted with this rectangle. Okay, so around about $20. Again, nice big round number. So it is possible that we come and test this point of control around about here, $26, $25, something like that. But for now, we cannot speculate on that. I mean, although we are seeing a little bit of a recovery, and this is a large liquid move, then we are kind of like just printing lower highs and lower lows. So continuation means that we go to the downside, and this scribble would be valid. Okay, so essentially what we want to see is a price break above it. If not, if we find resistance here, then you know that it's going to start getting outperformed by the US dollar, and Link will fall versus US dollar. Link versus BTC. This big green level here is essentially a low volume area yet again. It's been acting as support in the past, and it will probably continue to do so. This previous level that I highlighted here, red as resistance, is now support, as it is below us, I believe. Yep, price is above us just. So this was the point of control when we just broke above it. So that's good. We've got a nice little bounce on that point of control, nice little reaction there. So that's good news for Link versus BTC. But again, as you can see, this is just, you know, low volume, and in terms of market structure, this looks terrible. Okay, so I don't expect this to rally and just go into new all-time highs or break market structure. I think, again, it's very much just ranging, and even if we come all the way up here, it's very likely that we kind of come down here and test this level again, and then just try and get above it, and then maybe print a higher high, and then just see where we are from there. But we'll have to wait and see. But at the moment, in terms of we could have a look at smaller time frames, shorter time frames if you like. You can see that even here we've printed a lower low. Okay, so even though we printed a higher high, once we broke that market structure, we came and retested the highs, and then we just kind of fell apart. And so here we are. So again, we've got levels of resistance around about 4,800 sats and 5,500 sats, 6,300 sats just to start with. Okay, so obviously this here is a consolidation that was previously support, so I think that actually this is significant, and I will add a level of resistance there. Where are we? I will add a level of resistance here just because we've not targeted that just yet, and that's around about 4,300 sats. Okay, so I do think that that's significant. That's going to be the next level of resistance here. 4,300 sats, and if we break above that, then we've got a better chance to come and test these levels here, but we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so that's Link versus BTC. There's no signs of recovery yet or a Link outperforming Bitcoin. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I think Link is looking bearish versus Bitcoin. So again, I hope that information is useful to you. Link versus ETH. We are kind of tethering on the edge here. Okay, so we've already printed quite a few low highs and low lows, and the price just seems to be getting pushed down more and more and more. And the scribble that I did here on the daily becomes a little bit more apparent when I zoom out a little bit. Okay, so we could come and test all this all the way down here, around about 5,300 way, which is basically an FTR that we've got down here. So this should act as support, and then these levels here should act as resistance. So we could be doing something like this and just rotating sideways within this price, especially now that we are below this level of resistance here, okay, at 6,670 way. If we break above it, of course, then we start, we could either just rally or start going sideways here. There's a couple of potential scenarios. There's another range here, okay, there's a range here and a combination of both. This is the range that where we are in right now. I think this is the balance area high, balance area low, and if we break below that, then of course we'll have to see if we confirm that as resistance and we've fallen out of balance, and if we gain acceptance within this big balance area down here. Okay, this is a big volume concentration here, a big balance if you like, and if we find acceptance down here, it would look something like this. We break below it, fail to get above it, and then we come and test at least this point of control, okay, of the previous balance. We could even come all the way down to these levels down here, but we'll have to wait and see. The point of control should act as support, and hence why there's a little green line there for reference. Okay, so I think this is not going to be resolved before Friday, so I'll have another TA update for you guys on Friday, but just expect a little bit of volatility coming into this meeting, so that's why I'm highlighting all of these levels for you. Uni versus US dollar, so Uniswap. Okay, so we have confirmed this level that was previous resistance as support, so I'm going to put that as green. Okay, so we came and tested. You can see where this wick came and tested the edge of this balance area here. You can see here, if I was to put a line there, okay, level of support there, the edge of this consolidation. Excuse me. So that's the consolidation down here, as you can see here. Generated a little bit of volume there. So that's basically, we got rejected from this balance area here, which very quickly traveled away from this low volume area, and we've been kind of like, it looks like we've been accepted below here. So this is a strong sign here for Uni versus US dollar, and I think Uniswap has a chance of actually putting a few highs here if Bitcoin behaves. Okay, so again, it's a rejection of the lower balance areas, and now it remains to be seen if we can get an acceptance above these. Of course, we've got a low volume node here at around about $12, but essentially if we can break above $14, $15, then we've got a much better chance to travel both sides of this balance. And the balance that I'm talking about is essentially this gray area that you see inside of the whole price action here. Okay, so essentially what I want to see is the price come up to here and gain acceptance and find this area here, these two previous levels of resistance as support. If we can do that, then I think Link has got a very strong argument to going all the way back to $30. But again, it all hinges on Bitcoin and what Bitcoin's going to do. So the most likely case scenario right now is that even if we come all the way up here, which is the value area low of this distribution, we could just come and roll over, print a lower high, and then just roll over and come and test these levels down here. Okay, so again, lower highs, lower lows. This is the market structure, and this is what we're doing right now. Continuation would look like this. Okay, so again, $15, $14 is potentially a very interesting area to go short on Uni versus US dollar. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you what to do. This is just where I would be looking to go short. Uni versus Bitcoin. Uni versus Bitcoin is looking a little bit tricky. It does look like we've gained acceptance below here, below this low volume area. So we're essentially inside of this weird distribution of balance here. So we could see now essentially what I've described here, which is basically ranging between these levels. So that's somewhere between 3,150 sats and 2,200 sats. And we could just rotate sideways within this level with perhaps a few deviations. There's a low volume node here in context as you can see. So that should act as support. That's around about 2,200 sats. Okay, if we are to break below this, then it probably look a little bit like this. Come below it, come and test this level. This gets confirmed as resistance, and we go lower. Okay, so let me just do a quickly delete these scribbles so it becomes a little bit more clear. So essentially we've entered this balance area, even though we're bouncing on this level of support. Again, you can see that the level of support is perfectly lined up with these little volume nodes here inside that distribution. Okay, so this is where the levels of support that I've put here. This is exactly where we've bounced, but because of the weakness in the markets and printing lower lows still, it's very unlikely that we come and break this market structure. So we'll just have to wait and see. This is a perfect example of how this was a high and we broke here and printed a higher high, but then when it actually came down to it, we've printed now a lower low. Okay, so in terms of market structure, this is bearish. So even though Uni has a chance here of outperforming Bitcoin, with this low volume area here above, which is essentially the top edge of this rectangle here, I think that the most likely case scenario is to come here and roll over, or perhaps even here and then just roll over. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Okay, so even though we could start rallying and seeing a little bit of a short-term uptick on Uniswap, then I think the most likely case scenario is that we roll over at around about 3,500 sats. Okay, so that's Uni versus Bitcoin. Uni versus ETH. Finally, we are on this low volume node. We've tested this level of support once, but now we broke below it, so now this is resistance. Okay, and we are essentially in a big imbalance area. Okay, so it remains to be seen if we print a lower low here or if we print a higher low. If we print a higher low, then I would be very inclined to say that, you know, we perhaps go and print a higher high here, because this high here is higher than these ones. Okay, so in terms of market structure, we printed a low, now we've printed a higher high, and if the market was to turn around here, that would be a higher high and a higher low. Okay, so this would be a good entry for a short if the price starts rolling over. For a long, I beg your pardon, good entry for a long, and I do expect Uni to start outperforming Ethereum and go to these levels, at least try on these levels of resistance above here. Okay, again, it all hinges on what Bitcoin is doing and what happens in the traditional markets. So don't take my word as gospel. I'm just giving you these levels that you can pause and have a look at as potential levels of resistance, potential levels of friction, if you like. But again, just keep an eye on the markets and what Bitcoin is doing. This is super important. That's what you should be doing anyway. But now you at least can see that in terms of market structure here, and some of these targets, I hope that these targets and me highlighting where the market structure is gives you a little bit of an insight of what you should be doing with FODL. And I can see that the APY is just ridiculous, in like the 3 digits APY in terms of yields. So I'm going to be looking a little bit more deeply into this so that I can start earning on FODL. The markets can turn very, very quickly, so please stay fluid. I do expect volatility tonight, so perhaps it's a good move to just keep the money out of the markets and don't trade with leverage for the next few hours and just see where we are tomorrow. And it doesn't matter if you've lost a little bit of opportunity and the price has rallied. It's much better than if everything goes shit and goes south and you lose a lot more of your capital. Essentially what I'm trying to say is that loss of opportunity is better than loss of capital. So with that thought, I hope you guys trade smart and I hope you guys stay well. I'll have another TA update for you guys on Friday. In the meantime, take care and I'll speak to you guys soon. Thanks for watching.